Now, I told myself I was done with Apogee after they abandoned us Duet 2 owners who grabbed the iPads with the USB-C port. Then came the Symphony desktop, which was delayed what feels like a year due to the pandemic, and then it had a price increase shortly thereafter. Now, I don't like instability in product pricing, so I decided to hold off on that for the time being until things leveled out. And so far, it appears that it has. However, my next issue was that I didn't want to be tethered to DC wall power and wanted form and function for when I'm on the go. Now, as an owner of the Duet 2, Scarlett 2i2 version 3, and Mode 2 M4, I wondered how this new Duet 3 would measure up. Compared to the incredible value we get with interfaces we have available today, is it worth the $600 ask? Well, let's get into it. First off, if you find this video useful, please be sure to hit the like button, and if you're into iOS music production, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on the latest news, tips, tricks, sales, beats, reviews, updates, and more. Now, the Duet comes in a travel case inside of the box, clearly stating to us that this is made with portability in mind. The breakout cables fit in an Apogee branded zipper pouch, and they thoughtfully included a 2-in-1 USB-C to USB-C and USB-A cable adapter. I can't overstate how much I love the portable form factor and how everything fits neatly. And more importantly, for those on the road, the Duet 3 finally loses the Duet 2's need for DC power. It's a fully bus-powered device. The headphone jack is 1/8 of an inch instead of the usual 1/4 inch, so now there's no need to worry about fumbling and losing the headphone adapter. Because if you've experienced this, you know that there's few things worse than planning to mix while traveling and forgetting to pack that headphone adapter. And the great news continues, since this time there aren't any proprietary USB cables. You've got 2 USB-C ports and can plug the Duet in with either of them. And the second USB port is perfect for nothing, literally. There's no pass-through charging possible with it. It can't be used as a USB MIDI port to plug up a MIDI controller like you can with the Duet 2, and it definitely can't be used as a USB hub where you can connect another device or hard drive to it. So what can it be used for? Well, in the rare case that your computer can't power via the USB bus, you can plug power into the other USB port. So why no pass-through power? I asked Apogee this, and the problem they had is the confusion around special USB-C cables that are required for charging MacBooks, and that not all USB-C cables are created equal. Apogee considered that the probability of a customer burning out their unit from using the wrong USB cable would probably be pretty high, so they chose to omit that feature. But hopefully in the future, they're able to make the second USB-C port usable in some way. So fingers crossed. And yes, while we corresponded with Apogee about the unit, we did not receive the unit from them, so this will be a completely unbiased review. Now moving on, the dreaded breakout cable is still there, but I like that this time around they didn't make the microphone jacks combo jacks like the Duet 2. I actually prefer this new cable because now you can have your microphone and instrument plugged in at the same time, which leads to less unplugging and replugging your setup, which can be a major annoyance for those with desk setups. It's actually too bad that we can't use them at the same time, because if this was a 4-in 4-out interface, it would make so much more sense, but then I guess it wouldn't be a Duet. And for those that just can't stand the breakout cables, they've also got a dock available for $149, and it looks incredible. Apogee has tried this dock idea before, and it looked a little half-baked previously, but this one might be the best interface dock ever. It adds an additional headphone output that plays back at the same volume as the front headphone jack, so basically a sleek headphone splitter. And again, the microphone and 1/4 inch inputs are separate. This thing is just begging to be a 4-in and 4-out device. Again, I wish we could actually use the USB-C port on the dock as a hub of some sort, and the dock, I'm told, will not fit in the Apogee case, so that's definitely something to keep in mind if you plan to grab it. Now, the Duet's infamous wheel is bigger and better in every way. It has a satisfying tick when turning and clicks when pushing. I would actually love it if Apogee could allow it to have a scrub wheel mode for your DAW or video editor. I think it'd be really cool to be able to use the wheel for more than the control of the volume levels. Now, true enough, they've never done anything like this before, but it would be a great feature to add to this, so maybe they'll see this video and consider it. They left out the LED screen on this one, so there's no way outside of the software to see the levels that you're setting. And while I think the purple LED is a nice touch, I wish it was brighter and more pronounced overall. Yeah, it's there, in a dark space, but it's dim. Some of you might prefer that, so it's totally a matter of preference. For some reason, I had the idea that this thing would be glowing super bright, but unfortunately for my hopes, that's not the case. But it is a nice touch, and it's user controllable in the Apogee software. Speaking of which, you will need this desktop software to set up your Duet 3 for your iOS device. Now, if you've ever owned an Apogee device from the last generation and are running it on an iOS device, I know what you're thinking. Really, Apogee, have you not learned from the last go-round? Tethering your device to software instead of it being self-contained is not a good idea? The answer is no, iOS user. They have not learned this, and this is not plug and play. If you have no access to a Mac or Windows device, you probably want to look elsewhere until they've developed their iOS software. But the good news is that the desktop software does appear to lock the settings into the Duet, at which point it can be unplugged from the computer and then plugged into your iOS device. Now, I've tested putting these settings onto the Duet from the desktop and then letting the Duet sit overnight and then plugging into the iPad, just to see if it remembered it for that long. And the good news is it does. It definitely will remember whatever you set up on the Mac, so I feel comfortable setting this device up with the computer and then traveling with it while leaving the computer behind. But due to the lack of an iOS app and the lack of a screen, when you use the wheel to dial in your levels, you'll have to do everything by ear because you'll have no number indicators to make sure that everything is where you want it. And there's also some DSP on board, but for my purposes on iOS, as it stands, I can't do much with it. But I would love to see Apogee's plugins on iOS in the AUV3 format. I think it would be great to be able to run their plugins on iOS and use the DSP power of their interfaces to do it. So if you're listening, Apogee, please let's put that in motion. I think that would be an incredible feature going forward. So with all that said, let's get to the sound. Now, first and foremost, I'm recording this entire review using the preamps of the Duet 3 going into a tube microphone. Not much to go off, of course, but I just wanted to give you that reference. When I spoke with Apogee, I asked them, what does this compare most to in their product lineup? I was sent this very useful chart and they shared their opinion of the sound, but I don't want to quote them on that and give you false expectations. So let me say this. I just didn't want a Duet 3 to sound like a Duet 2 if I'm going to be buying that device in 2021. I wanted something that was improved in every way, but I also know it's unrealistic to expect Symphony-class specs at this price point. I wanted something that at least reminded me of the Element, especially when we're so close to the price of the Element, and luckily I was not disappointed. Now, I compared it directly to the Mode 2 M4, which I think is definitely an interface you'll be considering if you're looking at this one. And for my DAC purposes and to my ears, they aren't very far apart. And that's kind of the nature of A to D or D to A. It's not always going to be a night and day difference, but after hours of listening, resting my ears and listening again, I do feel like the Duet has a larger soundstage and slightly more detail. I also like the sound of the Duet more. It's a little less harsh to me, and I think for making beats, these little differences add up as you layer your track and mix. I'm especially looking forward to vocal tracking with this and doing a complete mix as well. And the preamps are good, but I really want to spend more time tracking through them and making music and comparing them before I really give a full review on them. My initial impression though is that they'll get the job done and I'm looking forward to using them. But again, at the time of this video, this requires a computer to set up, switching from instrument input to mic input, turning phantom power on and off, and whatever other settings you need to access. So for the iOS producer, this leaves a huge chasm and is currently perfect for no one. This is due to the iOS software not being available yet. And while the Duet 2 allowed Lightning devices to have plug-and-play capability with no dongles, support was severely limited for USB-C devices. And this time around, USB-C devices will work, but Lightning devices aren't given that special treatment and will need a CCK dongle. So iOS support is still in the oven, it is coming, but when, we don't know. Could be a week, could be a year. So make sure you go in understanding that. So let's get to the question you've been waiting for. Can I recommend it? I don't know. Sounds good. It is sleek, but I don't know if I can really call this device a good value. There was a time back in 2007 when the first Duet came out, it felt like it was the best device that you could buy under several $1,000s, and there weren't many high-quality budget interfaces, especially ones that you could travel with. $600 was a good value for that then, but this isn't really the case now. We as music makers have so much access to so much stuff for so cheap, and everyone from software developers to hardware makers have adapted accordingly. And to name a couple examples, at $600 you can get the Motu Ultralight 5, which provides an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the I/O available on it. Or for $399 you can get the Black Lion Audio Revolution. And for $180, you can get the Motu M2, the little brother to the M4. So as far as value goes, I would have liked it better priced at $399 since there's so many great interfaces at $399 and below available. But this is Apogee, and their interfaces tend to hold their value well, and their customer service is the best in the business. Over the years, whenever I've had issues, the response is immediate. When parts fail, I've been sent replacements with no issues. I guess this is part company culture and partly due to their good margins, so that's always worth noting. Personally, I really wish Apogee would have adopted a new approach and given the Duet a bit more I/O, maybe some digital ins and outs, and allowed the second USB port to be used as a hub for a hard drive and USB MIDI device connectivity. Now, if you can spring it, the $1,500 Symphony desktop has a more complete feature set, and that may satisfy your gear acquisition syndrome for years. But at more than twice the price of the Duet, as well as needing wall power, maybe it's less than ideal for the traveling musician. So if you're familiar with the Apogee sound, the workflow of using the old Duets, and that's something that you've always liked to have, then the Duet 3 is going to fit into your equipment arsenal perfectly. As long as you understand, if you're using an iOS device, some of the current limitations that they are working on fixing. I really like the Duet 3 so far. I think it's a great device, and I think you will too if you understand some of these caveats compared to other interfaces that can give you more I/O and not need to use a software in order to get up and running or set things up. So in conclusion, the Duet is still the Duet. It's simple, high quality, and is a good follow-up to the now ancient Duet 2. It's frustratingly limited in I/O and features, and satisfyingly maximized in sound quality. It's never trying to do too much, and outside of the Symphony class of devices, that's always been the Apogee way. I'm glad to see the evolution of a classic and them still supporting iOS devices. But with that said, if you enjoyed this video or found it informative, please hit the like button, and if you're into iOS music production, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss out on the latest tips, tricks, sales, beats, reviews, updates, and more. And be sure to check out some of the best kits available for iOS at iPadBeatmaking.com. It's iPadBeatmaking.com. Peace.